Okay guys, it is finally here. The Shimano SLX MGL after months and months of waiting. Now I have to admit that I could have got this probably a week ago, but unfortunately I didn't check my spam folder, and the email that Japan Lure Shop sent me saying that the reel arrived went to the spam folder, and I didn't check that folder until it'd been sitting there for 4 days. So that's my bad, but it is finally here. And let's see what it looks like. All right. So what did I get this time? Oh shit. He sent me out a evergreen jackhammer chatterbait in a pretty damn good color too. That would totally work around here. Wow. Aren't these like $20 here over at Tackle Warehouse? Anyway, let's put that off to the side. And there we go. SLX 70 XG. So the arrival of the SLX XT, in my opinion, kind of took some of the excitement of this SLX MGL away. At least for me it did, because I'm pretty sure they're gonna look pretty much almost exactly alike. Okay, all right. Paperwork comes with oil. Okay. There we go. The SLX MGL. Let you guys take a good look at this thing. The really shallow MGL spool. Now it doesn't say MGL on the side, as you can see. It's got that chrome piece. Bar's kind of stiff, but I'll let you guys take a good look at this thing. And I'm going to do my customary inspection and get back to you. So in doing this analysis of the MGL, of course I brought out its two siblings, and after my inspection my suspicions were confirmed that this MGL is basically a finesse version of the SLX. Now before we go into why, let's go over the similarities. So basically the MGL is no different than the other two. They're about 90% the same, meaning they share the same frame and side plates. So it's got an aluminum frame, graphite side plates. It's going to come in 3 different gear ratios, just like the other 3. It's going to be 6.3, 7.2, and the extra high gear 8.2, which is what I got. But the MGL is going to have 4+1 bearings, just like the XT, while the standard SLX I believe has 3+1. Okay, so let's talk about the differences and why I think this is the finesse version of the SLX. Now the main difference visually to me is going to be this smaller handle and knob assembly. So if you take a look at this handle, it's really thin and it's only 84 millimeters. And this is the same handle that you get on Shimano's 3 bait finesse reels. And also the same handle you get on its more finesse oriented reels like the ALDEBARAN, the Scorpion 70, the CURADO 70, etc. So if you compare to the standard SLX, which has the big beefy CURADO K handle and knobs, you can see the size difference there. This has got a 90mm handle, and you can really see the size difference in the knobs there. The standard SLX as well as the XT have the big, beefy, super comfortable CURADO K knobs. Now the XT model has an even bigger handle at 96mm, and I think that's because this is the XG model. Now both the MGL and the XT have chrome end caps, but I like the knob end caps on the XT better. Now speaking of knobs, these are the same knobs you get on the, I believe, the METANIUM, MGL, CHRONARCH, etc., etc. Okay, so another difference, of course, is going to be the spool, but we're going to get into that later. Now visually, you are looking at the same paint scheme on the frame and body as you get with the XT model. That means you're going to get a black frame with dark gray side plates. It's got a nice smooth satin finish, and both have this chrome front piece here that gives it a more expensive look. Now the standard SLX just has this almost raw looking graphite paint job. May not even have any paint on it. It's kind of rough feeling. But then also you're looking at the spool tension of the MGL as being a dark gray or almost black that's broken up with these nice blue rings, while of course the other two have blue spool tension knobs. So the MGL is definitely more understated than the XT, while it has more visual flair than the standard SLX. Now speaking of visual flair, let's take a look at the logo on the side here. Now Shimano Japan wisely made this a really stealthy, almost ghost logo. You really can't tell it's there until you kind of angle it to where it hits the light and then you see it. It's not in your face like the standard SLX, which had a controversial logo here. I don't think too many people like that. While the XT is kind of in your face, but not quite as in your face as the standard SLX. But visually, I'd say the best looking reel out of these three is going to be this XT. I like the fact that it's got the blue spool tension that's broken up by the silver rings. And of course, it's got much better looking knobs and knob end caps. Okay, so another difference, at least between the MGL and the standard SLX, is a very important one, and that is the inclusion of the SVS Infinity brakes. Now, if you're wondering why that's important, check out my last video where I did an on-the-water comparison between the standard SLX versus the XT, which also has the SVS Infinity brakes. And I go into detail on how this braking system with its external fine-tuning pretty much allows you to extract the maximum casting performance out of these brakes. So very important that the MGL also has that brake system because of this spool here. So what we're going to do next is we're going to put these reels on the scale as well as the spools, and we're going to see how light that spool is. So the cheap AliExpress scale is out, and let's see if there's any kind of weight differences between the three. Okay, so let's start out with the standard SLX, weighing in at 6.85 ounces. The XT weighing in at 7.2 because of the longer handle, and I believe the extra high gear is bigger. And then the MGL coming in at 6.9. So it's kind of surprising that the MGL actually weighs more than the standard by a little bit, considering the handle so much smaller and thinner, and the knobs are actually smaller. So I'm thinking this main gear for the XG model is pretty big. So now it's time to get to the meat and potatoes, and that is the spool weight. Something that I've been wanting to know ever since the announcement of the SLX MGL. Okay, so before we put the spools on the scale, let's take a look at this MGL spool. It's really nice looking. It's got the blue accents, the MGL porting. It came with all 4 brakes on, so that ought to tell you something. The spool is probably going to be really fast. No bearing on the spool shaft. And it looks like they colored the center of the spool blue, which looks really nice, but not like you'd be able to see it out on the water, so I'm not sure why they did that. Okay, so let's compare it against the standard SLX spool. Now, all 3 spools are going to have the same dimensions, 32 millimeters in diameter by 23 millimeters in width. But let's look at the line capacity between the standard and the MGL. As you can see, the standard, which has a 150 line capacity, it looks to be twice as deep as the MGL, which has the 70 line capacity. And I just want to do one thing real quick to see if Shimano will actually let us do this. I'm going to see if the MGL spool will fit into the standard SLX. And it looks like it fits. Yep. So yeah, the MGL spool actually fits into the standard SLX. Shimano didn't engineer any kind of stopgap measure to prevent people from doing that, which is kind of surprising. Okay, so let's get to these weights. So we're going to start off with the stock spool. You can tell because it has the 6 arms. This thing weighs 15.6 grams. And then the XT spool, 15.7 grams. Alright, moment of truth, SLX MGL spool, 13.2 grams. To be honest, guys, I'm pretty disappointed in that weight. I'll make sure that's right. I was hoping this spool would be closer to the low 12 grams or maybe even the 11 gram spool weight. So that is highly disappointing, considering I've been anticipating this reel for so long. So in order to show you guys why I'm so disappointed in that spool weight, I'm going to remove the XT and the SLX out of the picture, and then bring in this beast of a reel right here, the CASITAS MGL. Now I'm bringing this reel in because this is the reel that the SLX MGL was supposed to replace, much like the SLX is supposed to replace or did replace the standard CASITAS. And just like the SLX versus CASITAS, I was disappointed in those spool weights. Check out the weight of the CASITAS MGL spool, 12.2 grams. So the CASITAS MGL spool is 1 gram lighter, and then it's also 2 millimeters bigger. So this little SLX MGL spool is going to have to spin up that much faster to be able to cast the same distance as this CASITAS MGL spool. And the CASITAS MGL, in case you didn't know, will outcast reels over twice its price. Now, in the defense of the MGL, it does have a slightly shallower spool. The CASITAS has a 100 capacity spool. Well, of course, once again, this is 70. So basically, Shimano Japan has taken a page out of the Shimano North America playbook and given us a heavier, lower performing spool than the model it's replacing. And one thing I noticed, you want to take a look here, the MGL spool of the CASITAS has 8 portholes, while the SLX has only 6. So very, very big disappointment right there. So anyone out there that actually has a CASITAS MGL and you were kind of waiting on the arrival of the SLX, thinking that you would get some kind of casting performance upgrade, I highly doubt it. But what you will get is a more solid rigid frame, a slightly smoother retrieve, and a slightly more solid retrieve. And of course the SLX is noticeably smaller, and I don't think reels should get any smaller than this SLX. Any smaller than this and you're going to be cramping your hand trying to palm this thing. But yeah, when you're comparing the two, performance wise, I think the CASITAS is going to take it much like their non-MGL counterparts. So a few more things you guys probably need to know before we end this video is that for right now it doesn't look like there's going to be any left-hand models. I'm sure that might change in the future. So for anyone who wants, I guess, an SLX MGL, the closest thing you're going to get is getting the XT and then ordering an MGL spool. So basically buying a left-hand version of the XT and then buying an MGL spool to put in that XT. But then again, that would make that XT reel really, really expensive, and you could buy a higher end reel for that matter. Now speaking of expensive, for anyone who was thinking that this reel was going to be around the same price as these other two, think again. Now I don't remember offhand how much I paid because the shipping and everything kind of made the price higher from Japan Lure Shop, but I looked on Digitaka and they are pricing the SLX MGLs at $168. So $100 for the standard, $120 for the XT on eBay. At least that's what I paid. And then you're looking at almost $170 for this MGL. So this is not that, you know, not quite as big a bargain as you may think, because the CASITAS right now at Japan Lure Shop is only 130, I think 130 something dollars, and I think 150 at Digitaka. So yeah, keep that in mind when you are looking around for an SLX MGL. Now unless you just really, really, really love this frame, then I don't know, for 170 bucks, I'm not sure I would buy this again. But that's all going to depend on its performance. And to test that performance, of course, we're going to take all 3 reels and we're going to take out the Beast CASITAS MGL, and we're going to have a field battle to see which one actually casts the farthest. Okay guys, thanks a lot.